Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I'm JoeMac.
And I'm Loralei. Exciting news for all the Frieren fans out there, like me and my dad. The anime for season 2 was announced to start January 2026, which is too far away, but knowing it's coming, it's nice.
I'm excited.
Same. It will be streaming on Crunchyroll, and if you haven't seen it yet, season 1 is now on Netflix.
But
Like we talked about last week, I got books 11 and 12 in the Frieren manga, number 12 being the latest release, in English at least, and I read them both.
nice job.
Thanks! And number 10 because I hadn't finished it yet when we recorded. So let's talk about those, and I'm gonna do my best not to spoil anything, and if I do, I'm sure my dad will bleep it out in the editing, right, Dad?
I think it might just be easier if we just get a spoiler warning.
Yeah.
I'm not that good at editing yet. We'll put some timestamps in the description. So if you don't want anything spoiled for Frieren Beyond Journey's End, check the chapters below and skip ahead to when we're talking about the next topic.
Yeah. So book 10. This wasn't one of my favorites because you don't get a lot of Frieren, Fern, or Stark, and they're obviously the best characters. More than half of this one is a flashback with the demon Mocked. We see how he met Solitaire, and we get some good characterization of him as a demon. I understand why we need to know all of it, but it was more than half the book, and I like the story for our main characters. The last bit is the most exciting when the fights start. Book 11. This book was great. We get a lot of action, and our party defeats both Mocked and Solitaire. Love seeing them win. The cliffhanger at the end is the best, though. Himmel! So book 12 is the latest release, and I was super excited to keep reading after book 11's ending. Through the goddess's monument, Frieren actually goes into the past and meets her old party of heroes. We get some good action against a demon named Zart, and then the party has to try and figure out how to get Frieren back to the future. I wonder if Frieren can fly 88 miles per hour.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
I can't wait for book 13 in season 2 of the anime. If you're not reading Frieren, you should. It's an awesome, cozy read.
Last week, I mentioned that to get back into reading and prepare for the Apple TV Plus show coming soon, I was going to reread all of the Murderbot Diaries, and I was going to read the short stories that were only available in ebook. I'm a man of my word, and I read it all. It was my first time reading the short stories and my first time reading System Collapse, but it was my second time for the other 5 novellas and for Network Effect. Now, this time, because they've all been published, I was able to read them in chronological order for the story. They were published out of order, so let's go over that in case you're getting into it for the first time. The first thing that I read was Compulsory, which is a short story only on the ebook, followed up by All Systems Red, Artificial Condition, Rogue Protocol, and Exit Strategy. Those are the 4 novellas that are usually sold in that box set. After Exit Strategy, we read the short story Home, Habitat, Range, Niche, and Territory. After that, we hit Fugitive Telemetry, the final novella, and after that, Network Effect and System Collapse, which are 2 novels. And those 2 novels is one interconnected story, which is pretty cool. There's one other story that we read. It was a short story called Obsolescence. And before we get into the review and what the other books are about, I wanted to tackle that one. It's not about Murderbot. It connects to the universe through a historical drama Murderbot gets on preservation, and he comments that he didn't realize that they had a type of sec unit back then called augmented rovers. And obsolescence references those rovers. So of all the items on the reading list, that's the most skippable piece. It's located within a short story anthology called Take Us to a Better Place, and it's free. It's from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and I'll post a link in the description down below if you wanted to pick that up for yourself. There's a bunch of other stories in there as well. They're great. So as a whole, it's hard not to love the Murderbot Diaries, right? Martha Wells has done a fantastic job at making her protagonist so relatable and fun to read, so human, even though it's a construct. Now,
I'm something
millennial,
myself.
and Murderbot has a lot of the same values, motivations, and overall anxiety and depression as one of us. Its social awkwardness, referring to its desire not to look anyone in the eye, goes a step further, highlighting even those small human flaws that don't stop it from accomplishing its goals and nurturing friendships. First and foremost, this is a character story. Yeah, the overarching narrative is connected and progresses seamlessly and fluidly between each book, but the events fall second place to watching this sec unit grow. The adventures are simply vessels for Murderbot to discover more about itself while making more connections with humans along the way. Personally, I love this series. I look forward to each entry that comes out, and honestly, I'm very hopeful for the TV show. I know sometimes these streaming services don't do a great job, but Alexander Skarsgård is the front runner. Apple TV taking the helm on it. I'm really hoping this one's going to be a good one. And I don't think it's going to suffer from helmet syndrome. You know, if we had like the Judge Dreads and we had the Mandalorian, and they're supposed to keep their helmet on all the time, you know, to relate back to the source material. But as much as Murderbot doesn't like looking people in the face, pretty quick in the first book, he's taking his helmet off entirely. So I think it's already cooked into the story. So I know that's not going to be something that's going to be on the internet we're all complaining about. So that's nice. If you haven't read this, you should. Straight up. If that's all you needed coming to this video, take it. Come back after you've read it. Have some confirmation bias. We'll talk about it. You can hear me reflect all the reasons you loved it as well. And if the reason you are thinking maybe you don't want to read it is because it's sci-fi, that's just flavor. If you're not a sci-fi person, don't let that stop you. Okay, you can shave all the sci-fi bits away, and it's still a great story. Compulsory. Let's talk about it. A short story. This recounts one of the earliest stories in for Murderbot after they hacked their governor module and got free will. It's maybe like a 10-minute read, and in this story we get to see one of the first times that Murderbot goes out of its way to save a human while performing its on-the-fly hacks to make Sex System and the company think that they told it to do so it doesn't get caught. It's quick, it's easy, really introduces you to what the rest is going to be about. It's like 99 cents. So if you're, like I said, if you're on the fence, this is a great pickup. It'll tell you how it's going to go, and it's going to hook you. All Systems Red, the first novella, has Murderbot on a planet, and it hates planets, providing security for a survey team when a large hostile fauna attacks, necessitating its intervention and prompting the survey team to question why fauna like that wasn't included on the initial report of the planet. It's discovered there are more things that aren't as they should be, and tensions escalate when communications become affected. As it's the first in the series, we get a lot of the initial world building in the Murderbot world, and in this book, we're looking at things like space travel, alien life forms, like the different fauna, animals, and flora, plants. We're also introduced to constructs, which are biomechanical beings, so they're part robot, part human parts. They're not like humans converted, but they do use biological components. And bots, which are purely mechanical. Humans, spoiler alert, year one. And augmented humans, which are humans with mechanical implants. Think like Neuralink. We learn what a sec unit is and how the general public feels about them. Not good. And we get a look at the bigger picture in reference to there being corporate controlled planets, non-corporate controlled planets. Those are called freehold planets in this world. All Systems Red gives us a baseline for our main character's personality and opinions to measure against as we keep reading down these books. We learn about Murderbot's shyness, its proclivity for serialized media and not caring about the details of the jobs it's on. We're introduced to how entertainment has begun to expand its scope of thought and its ability to critical think in situations reflective of episodes it's seen. So if it saw an episode of some show and that's relevant to whatever situation it's finding itself in, it's allowed it to think outside the box of what it was programmed to do in order to solve that. And I think that's really cool. We also get to see that Murderbot will respect humans who respect it and make good security-based decisions. just like Dr. Mensa. I really like All Systems Red. I think it was a great intro to the world and to the story. It really accomplishes its goal of hooking you in to come back for more. Next up, we had Artificial Condition. This is the second novella. It sees Murderbot run away from preservation and Dr. Mensa to travel to Ravi Hyrule in order to find out, did it kill its previous clients because it hacked its governor module, or did it hack its governor module so that it wouldn't kill its clients again? It's a pretty big deal. Murderbot travels on a transport that is more than meets the eye. More than meets the eye. Murderbot's character's development in Artificial Condition shows that it is capable of building new relationships, and we see it become more human, at least in appearance, so that Murderbot can start passing as an augmented human on stations. Artificial Condition is one of the 3 favorite Murderbot stories that I have. Seeing the interactions between Murderbot and its newest friend, to me, are the most entertaining parts. Next up, we had Rogue Protocol, and we do get some more world building in this one. We learn that alien remnants are one of the things that political and corporate entities agree upon. Don't touch them. And if you're gonna, you better have a lot of special certificates. And even then, don't touch them. In this novella, Murderbot wants to travel to Milu, an abandoned terraforming planet previously owned by Grey Chris, in order to gather intel that he can send to Dr. Mensa, so that she can finally go home to preservation and finally leave port free commerce. In this way, Murderbot can stop worrying about her. We see Murderbot continue to grow, and here it acknowledges that bots and/or constructs can have positive relationships with humans. We also learn that Murderbot's drive to protect others outweighs its need to protect itself and remain a secret. You know, the whole being a rogue sec unit thing. Rogue Protocol was a good read. It helps that I love Murderbot so much, and the story moved the overall plot along and had good pacing. Exit Strategy is the 4th novella in the box set that you can get, and this sees Murderbot attempting to return to Dr. Mensa and deliver the incriminating data about Grey Chris that they got. But Murderbot isn't sure if Dr. Mensa has returned to preservation or is still in port-free commerce. That is until it gets a chance to check the newsfeed and realizes it has to get to Tranroll and Haifa, and fast. Exit Strategy is a much more high-stakes story than we've seen so far, especially with Murderbot starting to realize how much it cares for its humans. Its crew, as Art said. The pacing is fantastic, and we get to see Murderbot realize that when it gets to make choices for itself, it'll have a positive emotional reaction, even for something so small as picking its own clothes. Here we go back to a short story. This one's called Home, Habitat, Range, Niche Territory. And this short story is from Dr. Mensa's point of view. So this is the first time we're getting anything that isn't first person for Murderbot. And this is after she's been rescued by Murderbot from Grey Chris. It shows how she's traumatized from the kidnapping and how hard she's trying to return to normal. We also learn her first name is Ida. Up to this point, preservation has been talked about almost as like an oasis of sorts for refugees and free bots or constructs, but we do get to see that even though preservation does consider bots and constructs to be people, they are also aware and afraid of how dangerous a sec unit can be. It was a nice change of pace getting a Murderbot story from a different perspective. I want to share a snippet actually delivered by Dr. Mensa in this short story that I felt was really impactful. The Corporation Rim has always been a slave state, though it calls its institutionalized slavery contract labor. The production of human bot constructs is just a more horrific twist, a mental slavery as well as a physical one. At least victims of contract labor are free to think their own thoughts, but we tell ourselves that constructs aren't aware of their predicament. What SecUnit makes us realize is that this is not true. They are all aware of what they are and what's been done to them, but the only choice they are ever offered is obedience or pain and death. We have the final novella coming up here, Fugitive Telemetry. Someone has been murdered on preservation. The nicest place around. Dr. Mensa tasks Murderbot with helping the investigation in order to discover if Grey Chris may be involved. This novella is a classic murder mystery story set in the Murderbot universe. It was a fun read, and I wasn't able to figure out who the murderer was until right before they told us, so let me know if you can do better than me. Now we have the novels. The first one's Network Effect. Network Effect starts strong. Murderbot and Amina get kidnapped while they're in preservation space, and they're taken through a wormhole to a planet where there may or may not be colonists who may or may not have alien contamination, and Murderbot is basically blackmailed to perform a rescue mission. In this book, we see Murderbot attempt to deal with loss, emotional connection, what it doesn't want to referred to as a relationship, and being overwhelmed to the point of an emotional break. It is probably the most character growth we see contained within a single Murderbot story. Now, Network Effect is the first full novel in the Murderbot series, as I said, and it's also one half of the story arc surrounding its synopsis, which is finished in System Collapse. System Collapse. Continuing where we left off in Network Effect, Murderbot and its humans are still waiting for a university response ship to arrive and fix Art's warp drive. In the meantime, the party is decontaminating colonists and fixing the routers and agricultural bots. Everything seems pretty straightforward until meeting with the colonists imply there may or may not be another colony site on the planet. Murderbot's character growth in this novel is much more serious and intense than previously, showing it experience and overcome trauma. We also get to see Murderbot make a big decision for itself, which will decide its future. In comparison to the rest of the series, did this story need to not only be stretched to the length of a full novel, but to two of them? When Martha Wells has so successfully written these stories in a lean novella shape so far? In my opinion, yes. I don't think the extended length hurts the pacing. I think every bit of the two books are more than necessary, and to be honest, the more Murderbot, the better. I'm not going to complain about a nice long Murderbot book. That's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. You know the drill. Like and subscribe and all that. Have you read Murderbot?
Are you reading Frieren?
Are you nervous or excited for the Apple TV Plus show? Get in those comments!
Yeah!
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.